Good morning po sa inyong lahat. And happy Sunday. I pray that as you come here, hindi ko po sasayangin ang inyong oras, but you will know more about our God and our Savior sa Biblia. And you will love Him more. When we know somebody more, we love that somebody more, and that is the same thing with our God. My title for today is The God of the Big Picture. And our text for today is in Genesis chapter 37 to 50. Hindi po natin babasahin ang lahat ng iyan, but I will guide you as we go along and pick certain verses to establish po kung ano po yung message ko po today. But before that, let's open in prayer. Lord, open our hearts and our minds and then help us focus on your word and your message to all of us, corporately and individually. We pray, Panginoon, na as we listen to your word, kami po ay may encourage at mamahalin ka po namin even more na ikaw po ang Diyos na buhay. Ito po aming dalangin sa pangalan ni Jesus. Amen. Recently po, medyo I've been exploring into stock market or forex market. Kung sino man dito ang nasa or familiar sa stock market or in the foreign exchange, ano po yan, tinatawag po yan volatile market. Wala pong sigurado. One moment it's up, kumikita ka. Another moment it's down at nalulugi ka. Sa forex market po, ganun po yun, na up and down, up and down. Pero sabi nga po, ang idea dyan is even though sometimes merong up and down sa particular time, pag nagtumingin ka sa malayo, pataas pala siya. Minsan, kala mo pababa siya, palugi ka, pero pag tingin mo sa malayo, big picture, pataas pala siya. Parang ganoon din po ang buhay, hindi ba? Minsan, we're down, minsan we're up, diba? And there are times na seemingly parang hindi na po mababago ang ating sitwasyon. Sometimes feeling natin na we're rock bottom na po, wala na pong pag-asa. But when you zoom out and actually look at the big picture, may maganda palang plano ang Diyos sa buhay natin. I don't know kung na-experience na po ninyo ito sa buhay na dumaan ka sa pagsubok at hirap. Tapos nung dumaan ka na ron, and then looking back, ay, yun pala ang plano ni Lord. Hello? Yeah. Minsan hindi natin nakikita yung sitwasyon, yung plano ni Lord kapag nandun lang tayo sa certain situation. But when you zoom out and look at the big picture, God is actually planning something great. And yun po ang same case po sa buhay ni Joseph. Now, hindi ko po uulitin kasi I think I talked about Joseph nung nasa BGC pa tayo. And I've talked about yung time na siya po ay nandun po sa difficult times ng kanyang buhay. And we went to that in great detail. But ngayon ang gusto ko mong pag-usapan is actually the big picture po sa buhay ni Joseph. And this is actually something that I really appreciate. It's in line with our title today. And also in line din po to sa atin po na pag-usapan last time. A brief recap lang po about the life of Joseph. Si Joseph po, ang tatay niya ay si Jacob. That's what we talked about last time. At nagkaroon po siya ng 4 na asawa. Yung unang asawa, 6. And this is Judah. Diyan po nang galing si Jesus Christ. And then si Zilpha, 2. Si Rachel, 2. Si Bilha, 2. At ito po si Joseph. And we talked about last time na kahit na ganun kagulo ang kanyang pamilya, when you look at the big picture, at the end of the day, may pinlano pa rin pala ang Diyos sa buhay niya. Na even though si Jacob nagkaroon ng polygamous relationship na ang sakit-sakit ng ulo niya, and even yung mga kapatid niya nagselos kay Joseph dahil favorite ni Jacob si Joseph, minsan pag step siblings, minsan yan ang away pamilya seselusan, etc. That's why they threw Joseph into the pit. And even though ganun po ang sitwasyon, may plano pa rin na ang Diyos na maganda. And that's where Joseph comes in sa story ko natin. Now, a brief examination po ng buhay ni Joseph ay, when you look at Genesis 37 to 41, meron po at least mga 4 po or 5 episode po sa buhay ni Joseph. Minsan taas, minsan baba, pero we will learn at the end of the day na pag you zoom out, yun pala yung big picture ng Diyos sa buhay niya. Sa buhay po ni Joseph, merong at least 5 episodes, and I call this episode Nice Time episode. Ito po yung in Genesis 37 na siya po ay isa pong youth. Siya po ay nagpapastol ng mga tupa ng kanyang ama. At ito po yung panahon na kasama po niya ang kanyang pamilya. Ang nanay niya, ang tatay niya, ang mga kapatid niya, nag-enjoy siya. He is developing responsibility at a very early age. In fact, when you look at Genesis 37 verse 2, siya po ay 17 years old. Sa panahon po natin, 17, nag-aaral pa lang, ba't yun, nagpapastol ng tupa, tumutulong na sa pamilya. Wonderful responsibility na tinuturo po ng kanyang pamilya. And in fact, in verse 3, sabi po doon, Israel loved Joseph more than all his sons. Nararamdaman po niya ang pagmamahal ng kanyang mga magulang. These were great times. It was nice time. Have you ever been to that situation ng saya-saya ng buhay? Sana na po, hindi na ako tumanda. Eh, pag bata tayo, gusto natin tumanda, no? Wanna go independent. Yeah. Pag medyo independent na tayo, hirap pala ng buhay, sana high school na lang ako, wala akong iniisip. Yeah. Nice times sa buhay po ni Joseph. These are the uptrends of his life. Pero meron din pong dumaan sa panahon sa buhay niya na dumaan din po siya sa episode na painful times. And we talked about that last time na ito po yung mga kapatid niya, nagselos sa kanya and they threw them into a pit and they sold him into slavery, they sold him into Egypt, binitray siya ng mga kapatid niya. Wow, sakit siguro nun, no? Very painful times. Ito po yung panahon na one day, paggising mo, saya-saya ng buhay, then pag kinabukasan paggising mo, ibang-iba na ang sitwasyon mo sa buhay. Painful times sa buhay po niya. Episode number 2. Episode number 3 is the mixed emotions times. Ito na po yung after po na ibinenta si Joseph sa slavery. But sabi po sa Biblia, even though he was sold to slavery, he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. Sabi po doon, the Lord was with Joseph. And because the Lord was with Joseph, God made him successful. Despite na nandun po siya sa foreign land, na hindi po niya alam ang lengguwahe, hindi niya alam ang kultura, pero pinrasper pa rin siya ng Diyos. In fact, yung training niya bilang shepherd, yung responsibility po na niya, nagamit niya sa Egypt. You see? Even yung kanyang natutunan during his nice times was a preparation for something like this. And why do I say mixed emotion times? Yes, Joseph was experiencing success. Joseph was experiencing recognition in the house of his master. Ngunit, malungkot siya dahil hindi na niya nakikita pamilya niya eh. He doesn't even know kung makikita pa niya ang nanay niya at tatay niya at yung kapatid niya si Benjamin. Malungkot yun. Yun, wala pong cellphone, walang Viber, walang Facebook. And he is a slave. He has no way to pay his way out. Ganun po ang isang slave pag mamay-ari ka ng amo mo. At pag nagtumakas siya at bumalik siya sa kanyang mga magulang, pwede siyang ipapatay. That's what the slavery is noong unang panahon. So not only it is, yes, mixed emotions, may success, pero malungkot din po dahil hindi niya ma-enjoy ang success niya sa mga mahal niya sa buhay. And I believe we can relate to that. Minsan, marami kang something, pero pag malayo naman mahal mo sa buhay, hindi mo ma-enjoy yun. Kahit may 1 milyon ka, 10 million, 5 million, wala naman mahal mo sa buhay sa tabi mo, hirap yun. Because the true treasure are those, the people that God has given us. So number 3, mix of joy and sorrow, mixed emotion times. Again, I'm just brief examination so I can explain to you the big picture. That's my main point today. Pero hindi lang po yun, dumating siya sa pinaka-madilim ng panahon ng kanyang buhay, rock bottom times, episode number 4 in Genesis 39. And we all know the story na inaccuse po siya ng attempted rape ng asawa ng kanyang master. Kasi Joseph became a successful man, at sabi sa Biblia na Joseph was handsome in form and appearance. In form and appearance. So the wife desired him. Umayaw, maraming beses. Ayaw, nagalit yung asawa, binintangan siya ng attempted rape. Sinumbong dun sa asawa, sa master niya, kinulong siya, tinapon siya sa kulungan. Rock bottom times. In fact, he was there more than 2 years. Wala naman siyang ginawang mali. He stood up for what is right at siya pa ngayon na nagbayad. Malayo ka sa pamilya. Can you imagine this? The second time in his life, he lost everything. The first time, he lost his family. The first time, he lost his home. This time, he lost everything he worked hard for. But that's tough. If you were in the life of Joseph, what would your response be to God? How would you respond? Difficult. And I'm pretty sure na marami po sa atin somehow have gone through an episode sa buhay po natin na ganito. Pero nakakatuwa, even in those rock bottom times, sabi po sa Biblia, ang Diyos ay kasama pa rin niya. Genesis 39 verse 21, sabi doon, the Lord was with Joseph and extended kindness to him and gave him favor in the sight of the chief jailer. Even sa kulungan, naging successful siya. Ang galing. Even in the smallest responsibility, pinagpala pa rin siya ng Diyos. But here is the episode number 5. Finally, dineliver po siya ng Diyos. Mountaintop times. Genesis 41. And na po yung after more than 2 years in prison, nandun na po siya, you never know kung ano tumatakbo sa isip niya, Lord, bakit? Have you ever asked that, Lord, why? Ilang time ito nung na ganyan. Ngunit, pagdating po sa panahon na yon, God made a way. He interpreted the dream of the chief baker and the chief cupbearer ni Pharaoh na tinapon niya sa kulungan. Tapos, nakawala yung chief cupbearer. Sabi ni chief cupbearer, Pharaoh, meron nag-interpret ng dream sa jail. Ilabas niyo po siya para ma-interpret niya yung dream mo. Kasi nagkaroon ng dream yung hari ng Egypt eh. And so sabi po ng cupbearer, meron nag-interpret ng dream ko dun sa kulungan. Si Joseph po pangalan niya, ilabas niyo po siya. So, here he is standing in the presence of the king of Egypt, interpreting the dream of Pharaoh. At alam po natin yung storya. After po i-interpret ni Joseph ang dream ni Pharaoh, he was catapulted to success. Napakagandang testimony po doon. Sabi doon, in an instant, from zero to hero, from the prison cell to the second most important man in Egypt. Genesis 41, verse 39 to 43. Sabi po doon, so Pharaoh said to Joseph, this is Joseph after interpreting Pharaoh's dreams. 7 years na famine, 7 years na abundance, and 7 years of famine. Sabi po ni Pharaoh, since God has informed you of all of this, there is no one so discerning and wise as you are. You shall be over my house. According to your command, all my people shall do homage. Only in the throne I will be greater than you. Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I have set you over all the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh took off his signet ring from his hand and put it in Joseph's hand and clothed him in garments of fine linen and put the gold necklace around his neck. He had him ride in his second chariot, and they proclaimed before him, bow the knee, and he set him over all the land of Egypt. Wow! Nung nasa kulungan siya po'y dugyot, para pong walang pag-asa. And suddenly, in a moment, inangat po siya ng Diyos. Why? Kasi may plano ang Diyos. May big picture po sa lahat ng ups and downs and ups and downs and rock bottom times sa buhay po ni Joseph. But here is something to note during his mountaintop times. It was God who made the way, kaya po siya nandun sa posisyon niya ngayon. It was God who opened the doors of opportunity. It was God who interpreted the dream to Pharaoh through Joseph. And all that he went through sa buhay po niya, being a shepherd boy, training niya sa Potiphar's house, training niya sa prison cell, was a preparation for this time that he will be in charge of the entire land of Egypt. Not just a few prisoners, not just the household and the field of a wealthy person, but the whole land of Egypt. Ha? Ngunit hindi po naging madali yung preparation time na yun. How long did it take? 13 years. How do you know that, Pastor? How old was he nung tinapon siya sa bangin? He was 17 years old. How old is he nung pagdating dito na ipinromote siya? Sabi po sa verse 46, Now Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh. 13 years po. Hindi niya nakikita ang kanyang magulang at mga mahal sa buhay. Hindi niya alam kung makakapiling pa ba niya siya. 13 years he went through prison times, painful times, but now finally God delivers Joseph. Why? Nice times, painful times, these are the episodes sa buhay po ni Joseph. And maybe, you can relate. Saan kayo ngayon dyan? Are you here? Are you here? Or maybe you're here. Or maybe you're here. But don't lose hope. You know why? After the valley, there is what? The mountaintop times. But more than that, because God has a big picture. And that's my point. He is the God of the big picture sa buhay po ni Joseph. And the ups and downs na buhay po ng Kristiyano sa paglilingkod at pagmamahal sa Panginoon, God has also a big picture. So ano po yung big picture sa buhay po ni Joseph? This is the big plan of God. Kung bakit niya pinagdaanan ng lahat ng yon. You might be wondering, why, Lord? Why can't I see my family? I miss them. Why has everything been taken away from me? Why did I have to go all through this pain and misery? Why? Because number one, God's plan was to ultimately, through Him, to save and bless His entire family. Yan po ang plano ng Diyos. Look at Genesis 41, 53 to 57, and I will just read it so that you can listen. Ito na po yung panahon na siya po ay second in command in Egypt. He had all the authority to give food or take away food. Remember, kaya po siya inilagay doon kasi yung dream po ni Pharaoh is meron pong 7 years na abundance sa land of Egypt, pero darating po ang 7 years na walang makakain ng sanlibutan. Even yung sa tinitirahan ng mga magulang niya in Canaan, wala rin po sila makain. That's why his brothers came to Egypt to buy food. Genesis 41, verse 53-57. Sabi doon, when the 7 years of plenty which had been in the land of Egypt came to an end, tapos na, 7 years, and the 7 years of famine began to come, just as Joseph had said, then there was famine in all the lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. So when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried out to Pharaoh for bread. And Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, go to Joseph. Whatever he says to you, you shall do. When the famine was spread over all the face of the earth, then Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians. And the famine was severe in the land of Egypt. Verse 57, the people of all the earth came to Egypt. What? To buy bread from Joseph, because the famine was severe in all the earth. When the 7 years of famine had arrived, God had prepared Joseph right where He wanted him to be, to become a blessing to his entire family. So how do you know that? When you read Genesis 42 to 44, ito po yung storya ng mga kapatid niya. Sabi po ni Jacob, wala tayong makain. Yung mga apo ko, yung mga anak mo, lahat po tayong makain kasi wala kang pwedeng itanim, wala kang aanihin. But they heard that there was food in Egypt. Sabi ni Jacob, go there and get some food in Egypt. So they went there. And when you read those chapters, yan po yung story niyan. Yung mga kapatid ni Joseph, nung they asked bread from Joseph, hindi nila nakilala na si Joseph pala yun. Pero si Joseph, nakilala niya yung mga kapatid niya. Ito yung mga magagaling kong kapatid eh. Tanong ko kayo, kung kayo si Joseph, ano ang magiging reaction niyo? Ano ba lang? Ito yung mga magagaling mong kapatid. O hindi lang kapatid siguro, sige, kaibigan. Or mga tao na minahal or pinagkatiwalaan mo, na binitray ka, sinaksak ka sa likod, iniwan ka sa ere. Tapos ngayon, And those people were the ones who caused you all that pain and misery. How would you feel? What would you do now when you are now in a position of authority like Joseph? Joseph had the power to give them food or not to give them food. When you read the story, ilang beses pong umiyak si Joseph. Kasi nag-struggle po siyang patawarin yung mga kapatid niya. Nanggigil siya sa galit. 13 years sinis niya. Andito kayo ngayon. Ikaw ngayon ang nangangailangan sa akin. Naalala niya yung panaginip niya way before. Kaya siya tinapon ng mga kapatid niya sa pit kasi sabi niya, I had a dream na darating ang panahon, lahat kayo dadapa at sasamba sa akin. Nagalit yung mga kapatid niya, wow ha, talaga, o sige, tapon ka namin. Okay, and years after that, this is the fulfillment of that dream that God gave Joseph. Who's the man now? And Joseph cried many times, struggling to forgive his brothers. But then suddenly, he realized na God had planned, a big plan pala, kaya nangyari yun. Na-realize po niya yun in Genesis 45, 1 to 13. After all that struggling, ang haba po no, pabalik-balik po siya. Sabi niya, yung mga espiya kayo eh. Mga espiya kayo, kukulong ko kayo. Gagalit siya eh. Gusto niya bawian, power trip eh. Have you ever experienced a power trip ka? Sabi niya, kung nagsasabi kayo yung totoo, may tatay kayo, iwan niyo isa yung kapatid, si Simeon, uwi kayo doon. Diba? Kasi mahaba yung storya, but the bottom line is eventually, he came to a point na na-realize niya na may plano pala ang Diyos kaya nangyari ang lahat ng yon. And so, he revealed himself to his brothers. Sabi po sa Genesis 45, verse 1 to 13, I'd like you to listen to this. Ito po yung na-realize na niya na lahat ng pain that his brothers caused was because he will be a blessing to his family. That's what God planned after all. That's God's big picture. Sabi po sa chapter 45 of Genesis verse 1, Joseph could not control himself before all those who stood by him, and he cried. Sabi niya, have everyone go out from me. So there was no man with him when Joseph made himself known to his brothers. He wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard it, and the household of Pharaoh heard of it. Then Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? Can you imagine? 13 years, miss na ni Joseph ang kanyang ama. But his brothers could not answer him, for they were dismayed at his presence. Then Joseph said to his brothers, please come closer to me. And they came closer. And he said, I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. Now, do not be grieved or angry with yourselves, because you sold me here, for God sent me before you to preserve life. Naintindihan mo ni Joseph na lahat pala ng iyon, God had a plan. God was in control over it. In fact, God even allowed that to happen. Can you imagine that? Think about it for yourself. Does God allow pain and suffering in the life of a believer? The answer is yes. Sometimes tayo may kasalanan kung bakit tayo dumadaan sa hirap, but sometimes hindi, pero may plano at may hawak pa rin ng Diyos doon. Just like Joseph. Sabi niya, God sent me before you to preserve life. Verse 6, for the famine has been in the land these 2 years. 2 taon na po. Meron pang 5 years. And there are still 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvesting. God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant in the earth, and to keep you alive by a great deliverance. Pinapunta ko ng Diyos dito, okay, naiintindihan ko na. Ito na yung mission ko kung bakit God allowed me gave you all those pain, and allowed me to go through all of that. Sabi niya sa verse 8, now, therefore, it was not you who sent me here. You see? Watch that. Sabi niya, it was not you who sent me here, but God. And He has made me a father to Pharaoh, and Lord of all his household, and ruler of all the land of Egypt. Sabi niya sa verse 9, hurry, Go up to my father. Punta mo si Jacob, sabihin mo sa kanya, say that your son Joseph is alive. God has made me Lord of all of Egypt. Come down to me, do not delay. Sabi niya, punta mo yung tatay ko, i-report mo na buhay ako. Nanamimiss ko na siya at gusto ko pumunta kayo dito dahil may pagkain dito, mabubuhay kayo. And God sent me here so I can save your life and our entire family's life. Joseph got it in his mind. Sabi niya sa verse 10, you shall live in the land of Goshen. You shall be near me, you and your children and your children's children and your flocks and your herds and all that you have. Verse 11, there I will provide for you, for there are still 5 years of famine to come. You and your household and all that you have will be impoverished. Behold, your eyes see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin see. That is my mouth which is speaking to you. Verse 13, now you must tell my father all of my splendor in Egypt. He was so excited. Sabihin mo sa tatay ko, napakabuti ng Diyos. And all that you have seen, and you must hurry and bring my father down here. And so the story goes na almost 70 of them, lahat po ng household ni Joseph, made the journey from Canaan, a land which was famished, to Goshen, a place in Egypt, at doon po sila nanirahan. Sino po ang nag-provide? Si Joseph. Sino po ang nagbukas ng doors of opportunity? Si Joseph. In fact, kung hindi dahil kay Joseph, hindi papayagan ni Pharaoh ang mga Hebrew na yan na pumunta tumira sa Egypt dahil kinasusuyaan ng mga Egyptians ang mga Hebrew. They don't even like shepherds. If it wasn't for Joseph, they wouldn't be able to survive. They would just be able to buy food, wala ka ng makakain. But because Joseph was the second in command in Egypt, the vizier, the Pharaoh allowed him and his family. What is my point? That's the big picture number 1. Lahat ng pinagdaanan ni Joseph, it was because God had a plan in mind that Joseph would save his family and bless his family. But the second big picture, there you go. A nice picture of Joseph in his chariot. Lahat po ng pamilya ni Jacob, ang kanyang ama, na hindi po niya nakita ng 13 years. Ang kanya pong ama, nakakala niya patay na si Joseph. Ang kanya pong mga kapatid, na kanya pong pinatawad na. Ang mga asawa po ng mga kanyang kapatid. Ang mga anak ng kanyang mga kapatid, mga pamangkin niya. These were his entire family. You know what? All those 13 years in Egypt, wala po siyang pamilya. And now, God has restored everybody. Because that was the big picture God had in mind. And so they settled there. Pero ang pangalawang big picture po ng Diyos kung bakit He went through all of that, it was part of the fulfillment of God's promises. He went through all of that dahil God was going to use Joseph as an instrument in fulfilling God's promise. Ano po yun? Do you remember when you read Abraham, Isaac, at Jacob, sabi po ng Diyos, may pangako sa inyo. This land I will give to your descendants. What's that land? The land of Canaan. At naalala po ni Jacob yun. Sabi, ito po yung chapter 48 na malapit na pong mamatay si Jacob. Ito po yung after they settled down, nagtrabaho po sila, nagkaroon po sila ng kabuhayan, kasama po lahat ng pamilya. And then, namamatay na po si Jacob at pinatawag niya si Joseph. Sabi niya, God Almighty appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me. And He said to me, behold, I will make you fruitful and numerous, and I will make you a company of peoples, and will give you this land to your descendants after you for an everlasting possession. He was talking about the land of Canaan. Sabi niya, bibigay ko, katulad ng pinangako ko sa mga, kay Abraham, sa lolo mo, sa tatay mo, pinapangako ko rin sa iyo yan. Na darating ang panahon, aangkinin ninyo yung lupa na yan. At nangyari po yun, dahil po kay Joseph, naging posible yun. Why? Kasi kung hindi dahil kay Joseph, edi patay silang lahat dahil walang makain. Understand? Pero because Joseph was where God wanted him to be, he was an instrument to bring the entire family. Therefore, na-preserve po yung linya nila, and therefore, yung buong pamilya nila can still inherit the land. Sabi nun ni Joseph, Genesis 50, "As for you," sabi niya sa mga kapatid niya, "you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." Why? In order to bring about this present result, to preserve many people alive. Nangatpuan ng Diyos si Joseph. Big picture number 1, to save his family. Paano po na-save yun? Because he was in Egypt, pwede niyang ilagay yung pamilya niya at may makain sa isang lugar. And because of that, they are able to thrive and survive those 7 years of famine. Sa panahon po ni Joshua. After po ni Joseph, si Moses, then si Joshua. And watch this. Ito po yung big picture. Kung hindi din dahil kay Joseph, hindi nilagay ng Diyos si Joseph dyan, hindi po mangyayari dahil mamamatay silang lahat. But because Joseph was there, God used him to fulfill God's promise, and eventually it happened in the time of Joshua. Ito po yung pumasok na sila sa land of Canaan. Kinonquer nila. The walls of Jericho broke down. You know that story, right? Na umikot sila a couple of times and they prayed, they sang worship song, and the walls of Jericho broke down. Wala silang ginagawa. And they went in and conquered the opposing army, and they won the battle, and eventually they conquered the whole land of Canaan. Kasi yun ang pinangako ng Diyos eh. Right? And when they were going to settle down, and they divided the lands to the 12 tribes. You're gonna settle here, you're gonna settle there, you're gonna settle there, as God promised. So the Lord gave Israel, who is also Jacob, all the land which He had sworn to give their fathers. That is the fulfillment from Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Moses, Joshua. And Joseph was there, remember? Part of God's plan that God may give them the promised land. And they possessed it and lived in it. And the Lord gave them rest on every side, according to all that He had sworn to their fathers. Wow, God is a promise keeper. And no one of all their enemies stood before them. The Lord gave all their enemies into their hand. Verse 45. Not one of the good promises which the Lord had made to the house of Israel failed. All came to pass. And when you look at it, again, that's the big picture sa buhay po ni Joseph. Nice times, painful times, mixed emotion times, rock bottom times, mountaintop times, lahat po yun. When you zoom out, God's big picture so that Joseph would save his family and that Joseph would become part of fulfilling God's promises. Wow. Ang galing. What's my point as I end? Katulad po ni Joseph, tayo rin naman, di ba? We go through hills and valleys sa buhay. Minsan may ganun kang times na masaya lahat, minsan painful, minsan emotional, may mixed emotions, minsan walang-wala ka na, di mo lang kung nasaan pupunta, di mo lang kung gagawin mo, di mo lang kung may pag-asa pa ba. Meron din mga times na you're in the mountaintop. Right? But if you're a believer, if you're in God, kung saan ka man dun sa mga times na yun, you can be certain na may big picture sa buhay mo ang Diyos. Like Joseph, we all go through different episodes in life. Sometimes up, sometimes down. If we are in God, we can be certain there is a big picture and a grand purpose behind it. And the grand purpose is not only we can save and bless others, but the grand picture is more importantly, we can be instruments in fulfilling His kingdom on earth. Na tayo po ay maging part ng ginagawa niya sa mundo to preach and propagate the gospel. Yun po yun eh. Na whether in words or in deed, yun po yung God's grand plan sa buhay po natin. At tayo naligtas, nasasama at nakakasama yung mga pamilya natin na maligtas din. That's God's divine plan on earth. People coming to faith in the Lord Jesus Christ, our Savior. So as I'll end with this story. Okay. God is good and is in control of the big picture. Right? He's in control, He's good, whatever situation you're in. And I'll end with this story. Meron daw pong story na may isa pong farmer na meron po siyang kabayo. At yung kabayo po yun ay tumakbo at lumayas. Pumunta po yung kanyang kapitbahay. Sabi niya, bad luck. Your only horse ran away. E noong panahon na yun, mahal po ang kabayo. Kaya nga mga militar lang ang mayroong horses eh. At lalo na kung may chariot ka, mahal ko mag-maintain. Bad luck, your only horse ran away. A couple of days passed and then his horse returned. May kasama pong mga wild horses. Sabi po nung kapitbahay niya, good luck, huh? Your horse that ran away now has brought you many more horses. You have many more horses. Sabi po nung lalaki, bad luck and good luck. What do I know about that? You know, what do I know? And then suddenly, yung anak po niya tried to tame one of the wild horses. And he tried to tame it, the wild horse, and the wild horse kicked his son and broke his son's leg. Nasira, nabasag po yung tuhod ng ganyan pong anak. Dahil doon sa wild horses, na dinala ng kabayo niya. Diba? Nakapasama pa eh. Okay na eh. Sabi ng kapitbahay niya, bad luck, huh? Ayan, the wild horses. You know, disgrasya pa yung anak mo. Sabi nung farmer, bad luck, good luck, what do I know about this? But then suddenly, basag yung tuhod ng kanya pong anak. And then suddenly the military came. Dumating po yung militar. Recruiting young, able-bodied na mga tao to fight in a war. At hindi po nila napili yung anak kasi basag ang tuhod. Because he would not be able to fight in a war. Sabi po nung neighbor, bumating na naman, galit ulit, chismosa rin. Alam niya lahat ng nangyayari sa kapitbahay niya. Sabi niya, good luck, ha? Now your son will live because he will not have to fight the war. What's the point? God is in control. Minsan up, minsan down. Kala mo down na basag ang tuhod mo. Kala mo na wala na yung kabayo mo. Pero may plano pala ng Diyos doon. It's ultimately to save your life and bring you to the Savior Jesus Christ. That's the point of the story. So let's all close in prayer as we end this service.